We're joined Rusty Burson. He is an Aggie historian, and he's an author. And we get to hang out with him Thursdays. Rusty, what's your world like right now? For the most part, Aggie Athletics stick a fork. It's done for till the fall.
Yeah, I just got out of a 4-hour CPR class, so I'm really excited to be talking to you.
Well, I don't know. You got to hang out with a bunch of dummies, and they just look back at you blank-eyed, and no one to argue, no one to fight. Sounds pretty calm.
Well, it was, like I said, 4 hours of videos and all kinds of common sense things. But yeah, I'm happy that the class is done. I'm certified for another 2 years.
Figured we kick things off. Sadly, Aggie Baesball, because I know that's one of the sports near dear to your heart. You made that trip on one day's notice when they made the College World Series Finals kind of thing. So, yeah. Aggie Baesball, your final thoughts?
I think it was just almost identical to football. I mean, just to go out with just a dud. To score one run against USC is like scoring 3 points against Miami. To get, losing 14-3, getting outscored 14-3 is kind of like, getting outscored by Texas, 24-7 in the second half. So, good season, but just leaves you with a really sour taste in your mouth.
Is there a why the A&M teams are specializing in these finishes?
Well, I thought basketball was really fantastic this year, and they won a tournament game. I heard you and Chip talking earlier this week about his grades that he would give, and I thought he was a little low on the basketball. I'd definitely give Bucky an A minus in this, first season. But I don't know. I mean, it was just really. I didn't think, and you and I talked about this. I mean, I didn't think that this was an Omaha team for most of the year, and then they caught fire, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, maybe they can be, and I mean, why not? And so, to get the expectations up again, I'm a glutton for punishment. A lot of Aggies out there who are very much like me, and just the definition of insanity, right? Expect different things, keep doing the same thing, and but it's just it's just tough to be an A&M fan for the most part. I loved watching the volleyball team. Like I said, I love this basketball season, and the football season was good. The baseball season was good. Progress was made, but it just doesn't feel great,
Well, Aggie basketball, help me if I go off track here. Didn't they just mud up the second half of SEC, lost to Texas down the stretch, and the thing that salvaged the end for them was, A, they made the tournament, and B, they won a game, but their down the stretch wasn't very good either.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but based on the expectations coming in, that was there was a lot to like about Aggie basketball.
No, I give them an A. I give them the highest grade of all the teams. But it's relative because of the scale. It's a year one scale.
Right. But if you look, that was months ago, so I'm having a hard time remembering all that stuff. But, they played a Houston team and they got spanked, but they beat St. Mary's, and they beat Kentucky. It was a really good game. They beat LSU in 3 overtimes, but they did lose to Texas at home. So, yeah, that was disappointing. And then obviously they lost to Oklahoma in the SEC tournament. But yeah, I give them an A too, and I would stick with a B for baseball and B plus for football. I think because they got to the playoff for the first time, right? They got to play a home game. And despite the fact that the last 2 games were really disappointing, they made progress.
No one argues the progress part. And, I think the big debate with football is it a B plus or A minus. I know you can't do A plus. There's no natty. So sorry. A plus is natty or die. A grade. Is it possible to get an A grade without a national championship? I think the answer has to be yes, because there's only going to be one team in the country then that can get an A or higher if a natty's required for it. And you can get an A grade because what if you win one game in the college football playoff, 2 games? So you can get an A without a national championship. So 11-1, and you win the first college football playoff game could have been an A grade for the year.
I think when a lot of us got excited about Aggie Baesball was after they, swept Texas in the 2-game series, and I felt like they would have got him in the third. But again, the basketball team, they lost to Texas at home, and then the football team, they lost again. I mean, it's kind of getting old. It's A&M hasn't won against Texas in football since 2010. So yeah, there's a great many years there, even though it's only 3 games, I guess. But yeah, it just feels bad to be watching the Longhorns and A&M being at home. It
feels bad to watch the Longhorns pass A&M in every revenue sport 2 years into their SEC run.
Yeah, and I heard you talking about, the Lone Star Cup or whatever it is.
Lone Star Challenge?
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, and I would love the volleyball team, but in the sports that matter the most to me, football, baseball, and basketball, men's basketball, they were, even though we beat them in baseball, they're still going on. It's just like, well, they're ahead of us again. They're ahead of us, and even though they didn't go to playoffs in football, well, they beat us though. It's just like, I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Is it something institutional? It can't just be because history says so.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I am convinced that Kyle Fields on an Indian burial ground. Yes, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the case. But hey,
2 years into their SEC run, they're basically in front of all 3 of the sports.
Yeah. I saw Indiana win a national championship last year, so I know it's possible. So I've seen Baylor win a national championship in men's basketball, so I know it's possible. And A&M was, within 2 runs of winning the national championship, a couple years ago in Omaha. So I know it's possible. They got to get over the hump in one of the big 3.
Oh, okay. When you say that, and I mentioned this kind of every other day minimum, but the A&M athletic department is on this amazing trajectory, and as an Aggie sports fan, it's amazing. But one of the big 3 don't get it done. You don't have the cherry on top. You don't have the thing that will solidify the rest of it. You need one of the big 3 to cement all of it.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I loved watching that volleyball team. I'm not didn't watch women's tennis. Happy for them, but
I love tennis is great. Tennis in person has an incredible atmosphere.
Yeah, I've heard that. But I like I said, I just thoroughly enjoyed watching that volleyball team win the national championship, and the way they did it was just really impressive. And just they seem to get better and better with each game, and that's the goal, right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
It's just tricky, sticky. I think the help's going to be, the hope or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, baseball made a lot of great moves, positive direction. Mike Early did a heck of a job. Hiring Cliff Pennington was fantastic. Now they got to go, find the next pitching coach, and that's going to be a big hire, right? I mean, that's going to be really, really important. And then they're going to have to, invest in pitchers because they need some guys.
Yes. Obvious. I'm excited. Okay, then what is this going to be? Hire a new pitching coach. How long is it going to take him to be established? Is he going to be in time for this portal? His evaluations, his talent, what impact? Because, there's only one portal now, right? So,
right.
What a mess. That's how I look at it. What a mess.
Yeah, and, I just wanted so much for Grahovac and Hakopian and Sorrell to go out on a, at least get into. I would have loved to see them play at North Carolina, and obviously, if you don't win the national championship, there's regret, right? I mean, driving back from Omaha after losing that game to Tennessee, I was like, that was a gut punch. And then the further gut punch was to learn on the way back that the head coach had left and met in a cemetery and snook and didn't
One of
tell.
the greatest stories of all time. Met in a cemetery and snook. Never, if nothing else, we got the greatest story. One of the great stories of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Jason Hutchins about that too, and it's like he didn't even know. I mean, just the whole thing, the way that went down was just slimy, and so that left a really bad taste in your mouth. Even though they made it to the national championship series for the first time, and so it just seems like there's always something that, good year, not a great year.
Hey, we actually have a phone call. You want to take
good.
it?
You bet.
Could you call Rusty back because I accidentally hung up on him? This is how brilliant I am. So, Bill, what's up, man?
Hey, Lou, didn't we in basketball, men's basketball, didn't we beat Texas on their home court this year?
Yep, and they beat us here in the end.
Yeah, but I mean,
and pushing down the stretch.
I understand.
And then they went and had a better portal class, and they're going to start the season ranked ahead of A&M. That's all accurate. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there with Bucky. I'm fine with Bucky.
I agree. I love Bucky, and I think he's brilliant. I think watching him coach all year long, we talk about Bucky ball in the system and his identification in the portal, but watching him each game, and I think the problem with the SEC in general is tons of talent, horrible coaching. I think the average SEC coach is not very good, and Bucky is amazing.
Bucky's invested. He's invested, and those players love him, and I'll tell you, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. Now, shifting gears.
Don't shift the tennis. Don't shift the tennis. I know that's the only reason you called.
No, just for a second. Not only did we win the national championship at Georgia on their home court, all right, we also brought in the number one recruiting class.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. Hey, I'm looking forward to volleyball. I actually bought season tickets this year. Last season they're playing, and I looked at my girlfriend. Hey, you want to go to a volleyball game? She said, yeah, let's go. Hell, we ended up going to every one of them after that. What a ride!
It was incredible.
It was
incredible.
You, Louie. I'll let you go. I know you're trying to get to Rusty. Talk to you later,
Bill.
buddy.
Be good, man.
All right, bye-bye.
It makes me laugh. I know the only reason Bill called is he wanted to talk tennis, man. The other stuff was just a setup for that. Rusty, any thoughts?
I didn't get all that. Sorry. I was trying to call you back.
I was too busy laughing. I'm like, oh, no. Because, we could put like 3 calls on the air at once, but it takes the operator to have a clue.
Yeah, technology is great when it works, right?
No, when the operator makes it. Operator error, bro. Operator error on that one.
Yeah, I hear you. Been there. What did he say? Who was that?
Bill McGuire. I've known him forever. He is the number one women's tennis fan, I think, in the world. So I knew when he called that, he's going to, that was why he called, but he started off commenting on other things about, basketball. Well, didn't we beat them in Texas? Yeah, but of course down the stretch. A&M put them in the NCAA tournament, and they went further in the NCAA tournament, right? They went to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only reason they were in is because they beat A&M at Reed.
Yep, exactly right. And then, they played the play-in game, and they won that one, and they kept on winning. Yeah, so they went further. That's frustrating.
And it's one of those things. And again, in preseason, in all 3 this upcoming year, Texas will start in front of A&M, and all 3 in the upcoming season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And you know what? they're going to be good. They've got a lot less questions going into their football season.
A&M football start the year preseason top 10, probably in that 7-8 slot. Control your own destiny. A&M basketball, I've seen them, and it's interesting. I think they're going to be in the 26 to 35 slot. People are starting to realize what Bucky has.
Yeah, I think they're a top 25 program. But I understand that they may not start there, but I've got very little doubt that they're a top 25 program.
And I have zero clue in the world what Aggie Baesball will be heading into next year.
How did you know? I mean, there's no way to know, really, right?
Well, I look, and I think they need so much in the portal that I don't know if one portal can address all of it, because they kind of need to rebuild their entire pitching staff, except for 2 players.
Yeah.
So they need 6 or 7 pitchers? Like, that's insane to me. And replacing almost 5 hitters? And I know there's players in the program, but they need probably that's too much for one portal, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation will be. I don't know, obviously who's coming back, and we won't know that. I know they need a ton of pitchers. I know that they've got Jordan Wilson coming back, and that's a big plus there. I mean, what he did. I know hopefully Aiden Sims is healthy and can come back strong and be the true ace. But, yeah, they got a lot of things to address. And, does Bear Harrison, I mean, where's he get picked in the draft? I mean, he had a really good year. He's a junior. I mean, so does he go? Obviously, Sorrell goes, and Grahovic goes, and Hakopian, because those are all guys who are going to go pretty high.
First, second round, maybe third would be worst case scenario, but 1, 2.
Yeah, and Nick Partita, he was fantastic, and then you got Terrence Keel, who I would think would be back. But other than that, there's a lot of questions. I have no idea what to expect next year.
Rusty, let's grab a quick timeout, come back. I want to hang out some more, man.
Let's do it.
Rusty Burson is an Aggie historian and author, and he joins me on the D4 Land Services Thursdays here on the Louie Bellina Show. If you need your land fixed up or your land cleared or your land excavated, you can go to d4landservices.com. If you need forestry, mulching, pond construction, or maybe a custom metal building from the ground up, you visit d4landservices.com. It's the Louie Bellina Show, Thursday on the Zone.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
The Louie Bellina Show.
It's awesome.
Stop, listen, and look both ways.
Listen in weekdays, 11 to 2 on the Zone.
It's Rusty Burson, Aggie historian and author. And Rusty, as we head to the offseason, and we've been kind of hitting that overview, Aggie Athletics 25-26, which is the program that gives you the greatest optimism for the future?
Men's basketball. No question. I think what Bucky did in year one, and I think his personality, and I think the ability to change so much with just a few key players. I mean, football I'm very excited about football, but in basketball, you can do it so quickly. And I just think he's got the staff, he's got the mentality. There's something very, very, contagious about him that draws people to him. And I just think the future is very, very bright for Bucky Ball. And so that's the one that I'm most excited about.
Okay, you say you can do it very, very quickly, right? I think they have one scholarship spot left. They got to get a big. I don't know what's left in the portal or what will end up popping up out of nowhere. If they can get some version of an inside presence, well, using the word big, God knows what they did on the front court, what they did in the guard position is, I don't want to say Final Four, Elite Eight, that level, what they picked up in the guard spots, man. It's that level.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a potential All-American, P.J. Haggerty. I mean, the kid from Kansas State. And then, I love the Jalen Shelley. At Loyola, he was fantastic. And you know what? I mean, you're right. They need a bigger guy, a bigger presence. But
don't forget they got their own pro player.
Yeah, I mean, Mbako is.
No, I'm not even talking about him.
Yeah, I guess.
Warren.
Yes, Warren. And then I think, as from an athlete standpoint, Jamie Vincent's got he's got real potential, and and Zach Clemens, what he did last year, how much he improved. So there's a lot of things to like. I'm going to go into this season thinking that this is going to be a team that could go into the second weekend of the tournament pretty easily.
So do I.
And I love the staff. What he did to get Mitch Cole, Kyle Keller, and Frank Haith back here, I mean, they all have been here and they loved A&M, and so I just thought that was genius of him to, and then Darby Rich too, right? I mean, Darby was here, so getting all those guys back, and I love that staff. Love the direction of the program.
I'm putting this on I'm 100% with you on this. He came in, all this late stuff, and he nailed everything so perfectly with the players left, with the staff, and, he had to move fast, but yet everything was deliberate. How can you, isn't that an oxymoron kind of thing?
Yeah.
You're a writer. You know these words better than me, right? He had to move fast and quick, huh?
Yeah, and he got guys that, I mean, there was no height whatsoever, but they all bought in, I mean, Marcus Hill, I mean, that guy got stuffed more times than I can ever recall, I mean, but he still wasn't afraid to go, and Rylan Griffin was, there from time to time, and, I mean, even though he played just 1 year, Rashawn Agee is going to go down as one of my favorite players in A&M basketball, just because how much he did and how hard he played, and, I mean, listed as 6'8", and I don't seriously know if it's 6'8" or not, but sure didn't look like it. And he
played like he was 7 foot.
Yeah, he did. And it was pure hustle, and he battled, and so for that team to do as much as they did, and have just a really fun start. The finish wasn't what everybody wanted, but that team was really limited in physicality, and the one real big guy they had was Federico, and this was just not his system.
I agree with you in picking basketball. That's what my gut. If I was putting money down in Vegas, the thing is, and the basketball, the new format for the new format for football is brutal. You have to win so many games now that I don't know if any dynasties will ever exist because of the format. And look, we have free agency, we have NIL, we have the portal. One portal is different than two, though. I think the one portal thing changed things a bit, but different discussion we have all summer. We might jump back to that.
Yeah.
My point being, I think the football format is no longer conducive for the best teams to win. We don't have enough data points. So I just look at what Elko is doing, and I know he's building something that will last. Like A&M football should be in position, i.e. make the playoff. And if they go to 24, Aggie football should be in the college football playoff 3 out of 4, kind of like 3 out of 4. There you go. At least, almost min, I want to say. I believe that's what Elko's building. So,
do you like the 24 idea?
No, I hate it with a passion.
Me too.
Elko's statement at Destin was, what's wrong with the best teams, what's wrong with having something exclusive, is 1,000,000% the way I see it. Mm-hmm. But that died so long ago. Do you remember, and you're a baseball fan, so I know you do, when it was only 4 teams, when it was only 4 divisions, and it was only the division champs?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, baseball's a lot better game now, with more teams than postseason, I think.
Yes, looking back, it was a great change to do the wild card, but it went too far.
But there were a lot of great teams in the 70s who never made the playoffs.
But now you have bad teams that shouldn't be in. See, it's always that one step too far. So I don't want to sit there like the old guy on the porch, because the wild card was genius, but now we have too many. And you look at the NBA, there's way too many teams. When you start including mediocre and below average, you've gone too far. And playoff expansion in every single sport always goes one too far.
Yep.
And for college football, 16 strikes me as the most perfect number in the world. 24. Come on, we don't have 24 teams that are championship worthy. We don't.
And so those first round games would be just awful.
Yeah.
I mean,
unless you give 8 buys, maybe when we go 9 through 24.
Right.
And by 8, no, you got to give 12 teams a bye. And then you'd have competitive playoff games by cheating the system.
Yeah, I just hate it. I hate the 76 now with the, or whatever it is.
70-something.
70-something in men's basketball. It's dumb. I mean, I didn't like it when they went from 64 to 68. Now, I did like it when I remember back in the day where you basically had to win your conference championship to get in the NCAA tournament. I mean, there were times when A&M had some really good teams under Shelby Metcalf that didn't sniff the NCAA tournament because they didn't win the conference.
High school level, you used to have to win your district. And then they went 2. And now you have 4, and you have teams with losing records going in.
Yeah, I always tell the story that we were in my high school, I guess this was my sophomore year, got pulled up to the varsity, and we were 0-7, and it's only 16 districts. So we upset the district leader, so we're 1-7, and if we won our next 2 games, we were going to make the playoffs. I was like, well, we didn't win it, but anyway, so that's the kind of craziness that just is expanded playoffs, and it's gone too far. That's what I'll say. I agree with you 100%. Baseball is better, but yeah, there's too many now.
Yep, but I think that's every single league. Yeah. Went 1 round too many, because what's better than 4-8? What's better than 8-16? What's better than 16-32? No. Again, right. 1 step too far. No. Rusty, go be awesome. Dude, always appreciate it. You know that. It's a blast to get to catch up with you. I'll check in next Thursday.
Sounds good, buddy. Take care.
Later, brother. Rusty Burson, Aggie Historian and Author. He joins us on the D4 Land Services. It's a Thursday thing on the Louie Bellina Show. D4 Land Services. Go to their website, by the way, because they do so much. And, you know, I've told you they help with the land, and people like help. Yeah, they fix up land, clear land, excavate land. But then they also do like pond construction, and they do these custom metal buildings and forestry mulching. And they do more. Go check them out at d4landservices.com. I'll be back. And when we return, it's part 2 of the big listen in. And it's Greg McElroy from his Always College Football podcast. And it's the top 5 defensive edge groups for 2026. And man, talking ball, getting ready for college football 2026. Yes, please. This is the Louie Bellina Show on The Zone.
We are going. Are you ready? The Zone 1150 AM and 93.7 FM. When we get tired, we play harder.
It's time. Oh, here we go.
Let's go. Time now for part 2. And even if you didn't hear part 1, trust me, you're cool. Of a listen-in. Greg McElroy, Always College Football podcast. These are the top 5 defensive end units for 2026. His rankings.
At number 5, it's the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, people will look back at Ole Miss's time being coached by Lane Kiffin, and they'll think about offense and points scored and excitement. That's not what I'll think, though. I'll think about a group that early in Lane Kiffin's tenure was all offense. They wanted to win those shootouts. And then he hired Pete Golding, and all of a sudden, they found a way to win on both sides of the ball. Now, they only, at times, were elite on defense when they had the personnel, but man, they were pretty dang good in certain spots last year. Yes, they lacked a little depth across the board. Yes, their secondary was a touch vulnerable at times, but the reason why the Ole Miss Rebels made a run, people will remember the greatness and the elite play of their quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss. What I'll remember is that defensive line was remarkably underrated. And when Lane Kiffin left for LSU, you didn't see a lot of defenders that were really, really dominant. You didn't see a lot go with them. Why? Because they all bought into what Pete Golding was selling. What remained was Will Eccles, which is a tremendous starting point, and Suntarian Perkins. Both stayed in Oxford to play for their coach in Pete Golding, and both addressed the media this spring saying, hey, they're here and they want to win a national championship. And let me tell you what these two guys are. Eccles is one of the best interior defenders I saw all of last year. He led all Power 4 defensive tackles with 26 pressures in 2025, which is pretty dang impressive. But he also batted 6 passes, which is really impressive, especially if those passes get tipped. They can oftentimes end up in the arms of one of his defensive teammates. He was one of the best recruits from a couple years ago, and that was as a sophomore. You also have Sunterian Perkins, who's maybe slightly undersized at 6'2", 220 pounds, doesn't play that way. Guy's got 16 sacks over the last 2 years, and most of his time last year was spent off the ball. I envision him playing a little bit more as a traditional edge defender. He's one of the fastest guys on the team. So if you look at his stops since 2024, he's made a lot of plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. He also made a critical play against Gunnar Stockton in the Sugar Bowl that sent Ole Miss right there to the quarterfinal game. I mean, this is a guy that has made a lot of plays over the course of his career. He's now entering in his senior season. And Pete Golding, who has spent a lot of time at Alabama, building one of the more consistent defensive line pipelines in a long time, goes to Oxford. He's done the exact same thing. Now he's calling the shots. I mean, this is the same guy that coached to Quinton Williams, that coached to Christian Barmore, that coached to Byron Young. Like, this is a guy that was really, really well entrenched in the front seven defensively. And if you look at how those guys played last year, they played at a remarkably high level. However, they did not have the depth. Oftentimes, this Ole Miss defensive line was subjected to playing 60 or 70 snaps a game. That won't be the case this year. They have better depth. They have excellent coaching. And now they won't be as concerned about taking Will Eccles off the field once he eclipses the 40, 45, 50 play mark. He was playing in some cases 70 snaps a game last year. So you're going to get a better, more consistent Will Eccles this season. And that is a scary thing for everybody in the SEC, which is why Ole Miss, with the improved depth, we know their start line talent is great, but the improved depth is what lands them in the top 5 for now. At number 4, the Clemson Tigers. Peter Woods is gone. TJ Parker's gone. Those guys are out. So you watch 2 of the best defensive linemen in college football the last couple of years leave for the NFL, right? That's a really challenging thing to replace. For many programs, that would not just be subtraction. That's a detonation. And yet here we are talking about Clemson being in the top 4 again, because this is what Dabo Swinney does. I mean, if you look at since 2019, the Tigers have put 9 defensive linemen in the NFL draft. The developmental pipeline does not stop because 2 great ones graduated. It just keeps running because Will Height continues to do amazing things. He's the guy that transferred in from Purdue and was really good and was still one of the more effective edge rushers in the ACC. He had 15 tackles for loss. That led the team. He had 7 sacks. That was terrific as well. He's outstanding and a guy that plays the game with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Now, it's projecting. If you look forward, this is a guy that could very well hear his name called very early in the draft than you would have thought maybe a year or 2 ago. You also look at the interior, and maybe it's a bit thinner than it was at one point. You lose a couple pieces. One transfers out. Devontae Capehart off to the NFL. But you go get a couple portal additions in C.J. Wesley and Marcus Strong. Those guys have an awful lot to prove, and Jaheim Lawson returns as well. That gives a rotational complement off the edge. The depth question is legitimate, but I'm a big believer in what they have in the scheme. I'm a big believer in what they have coming back. And I'm a big believer in the upside potentially and the chip on their shoulder that it feels like Clemson is approaching the season with. So maybe a little higher than most, but still very optimistic and bullish on what the Clemson Tigers can be this season, which is why they have them at number 4. At number 3, it's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now, the post-spring hype around Notre Dame is very real. I have said already that I would make a strong argument they should be number 1 in college football going into the year. I think that's a very easy case to make. A lot of people kind of universally across the board, almost everybody has them in their top 5. Part of the reason why people talk about CJ Carr, the improved weaponry at wide receiver, elite offensive line play. Yeah, they got to replace the running back. But the reason why I'm so bullish on Notre Dame is the defense, man. I mean, this should be one of the best defenses in the country. And the reason why I think this group has a chance to be elite is what they have along the defensive line. And if you look at what Marcus Freeman has put together, it starts with defensive end Boubacar Traore, who's returning and had done amazing things. When he's been healthy, he's had to deal with a couple injuries from time to time. But when he's out there, he's a take over the game guy off the edge. You also have defensive end Bryce Young, who's big and physically imposing. He's going into his third year. You also look at a couple additions that should improve the depth of this group across the board, including Alabama transfer Keon Keeley, who back in high school was a universal can't-miss 5-star recruit. Maybe he hasn't lived up to the billing, but there were flashes last year when he played in the rotation for Alabama. He's actually done a pretty good job at times. So looking forward to seeing what he can eventually become will be fascinating. They bring in a transfer from Pitt and Francis Brew, who is one of the better interior defenders across the board, a little bit undersized, but is very twitchy and can penetrate. And if you look at Notre Dame's defense from a couple of years ago, they had great success with a guy named Howard Cross. I think Brew can potentially fill that role. They say he wants to emulate Aaron Donald. Well, that's a pretty good place to start. Every undersized defensive tackle wants to be Aaron Donald, but if they're talking about it openly, that's great. It sounds like he's built for it. You also go and get a transfer from Oregon in Tion Gray, who's a big physical body at 330 pounds. He's kind of a space eater that can anchor the interior alongside Jason Onye and Brew. And if you look at the blue gold game, that group combined for 3 sacks and 5 tackles for loss. And that's a really good Notre Dame offense. And the unit, I think you could make the case, is probably as deep as it's been in quite some time for Notre Dame. We know the secondary is elite. We know the linebackers have a chance to be elite, but the reason why many people believe this could be Notre Dame's year is because of this defensive line. They are in at number 3. At number 2, it's the Texas Longhorns. Colin Simmons is, I think, the best pass rusher in college football. I think a lot of people will confirm that. You look at what his capabilities are. You listen to his coaches. You listen to those that have watched him practice. You look at the bio on the Texas Athletics website. The guy's the SEC sack leader. He had 12 sacks last year and 15 and a half tackles for loss in 2025. He's got 21 sacks through his first 2 seasons. Now he's entering in at year number 3. He wants that record. He wants to break the sack record. He's talked about it. He's been very open about it, and that's not bulletin board material. This is a man that knows what he is, what he can be, and he's not afraid to let you know. You also have Lance Jackson, who was an all-SEC freshman last year. He also is going to be a really solid edge piece as well on the other side. Hiro Kanu anchors the interior at nearly 330 pounds, kind of bulked up specifically for the new defensive coordinator, Will Muschamp, and how they're going to try to 2-gap there on the interior. You go and get a couple other pieces from the portal, like Ian Graffard from Arkansas is going to play nose. He's listed at like 380. So he's a big boy. And then you have great depth as well with January, Watson, and Terry that will all be in part of the interior rotation. So you got 4 defensive tackles, and Muschamp describes those 4 as probably as good a 4-man group as you'll find in the SEC. In the spring assessment from the staff, everyone was on the same page. We know that Muschamp's system, about pressure first, it's scheme heavy, and they will build things around individual players. That's what Simmons is going to have lined up for him. If they can just occupy attention over here and get him some one-on-ones, they'll be in really good shape. Now, Muschamp, this is his first season running the defense with this roster, but he has head coaching experience. We know he's been unbelievable as a defensive mind for a very long time, but there could be a bit of a learning curve in understanding what his personnel does at a really, really high level. But the projection right now, the projection of what this group could be is what keeps them at number 2, not at number 1. Right now we're projecting a little bit more, and the team that sits at number 1, there's a little more known commodities when it comes to evaluating what they're capable of. That's why the Longhorns are in at number 2. At number 1, it's the Oregon Ducks. Now, let me tell you what I think the Oregon defensive line is, right? Amari Washington, who at 6'3", 330, one of the best interior defenders in the country, already projected as a top-tier NFL draft pick in this past draft, says, I want to come back. He was arguably the most disruptive interior lineman in the Big Ten last year. He also batted at 8 passes as well. That's the most among defensive tackles in the FBS. He can run, he can move. You look at the player tracking data, it's off the charts. And at 330 pounds, to see a guy running at high teens is pretty impressive. So you look at what this group is capable of, and you look at Bear Alexander, who had finally broke through. We've kind of been waiting for Bear Alexander for a while, has had a couple stops along the way, but really broke through this past year. And he was one of the first that said, I'm coming back, right? That was early in December, which was really, really big. Those two on the interior can go. And you got Tatum Tuioti, who's amazing. Had 9.5 sacks last year, makes plays on the ball. He's an all Big Ten selection, made a lot of stops last year as well to go with Mateo Uiagalelei. Those two guys off the edge. You have two top 10 edge defenders. You also have two top 10 interior defenders. Well, that's going to lead to being the top defensive line in college football because Uiagalelei by himself, 10.5 sacks in 24, tons of pressures in 25. And this is a guy that was raw and was kind of a 3-star player that has really honed in his craft and is now projected to be a high-level NFL draft pick. I mean, all 4 of those guys deciding to come back was massive because all 4 had legitimate NFL draft stock, and they all chose Oregon. You also look DeAndre Robinson, who transfers in to add some interior depth. And you listen to what the new defensive coordinator, Chris Hampton, said all throughout the spring. I mean, he believes that this can be the best defense in the country. Now, I am pretty optimistic about this group. There is one other variable that we'll be watching very closely too, and that's Tony Cumberland, who was involved in a car accident this spring, missed all of spring practice, and right now his availability is a little bit uncertain. But he's expected to be a rotational piece, if not a guy that could potentially factor into the starting lineup, and that could affect this program's ceiling as well. It's worth monitoring because with or without Cumberland, it's not a close call. This is probably the best defensive line in the sport. I'm not sure I'm going to have a lot of people pushing back on that. You have 4 returning starters with legitimate first-round potential. You got 2 top 10 interior guys, 2 top 10 edge guys, great depth along the way, a head coach that knows his defense like the back of his hand. So Oregon right now, the undisputed number 1 defensive line in college football heading into the season.
That wraps up our listen in. Greg McElroy, Always College Football Podcast, and he did the top 10. 1135 was part 1. We just listened to part 2. Top 10 edge defensive line units for 2026. When we come back, bye-bye. We're done. I got to wrap up the Louie Bellina Show, Thursday edition. The Louie Bellina Show presented by CC Electric. Residential, commercial, industrial services. It's what they do at CC Electric.
This is Aggieland's only all-sports station, The Zone. 1150 AM and 93.7 FM.
I have to get out of here. I have to leave. They make me. Paul Feinbaum Show, 2 o'clock. Chip Howard Sports Talk at 4. Astros, Pirates, the rubber game, 6:40, thanks to Kelly Burt Dozer. But before out the door, I had to share this. Today, and I don't know if you know this, is National Cheese Day. National Cheese Day. 52% of Americans self-identify as cheese-obsessed. I'm happy itself because if you actually went to a doctor to get an official diagnosis, I would really be concerned about you. So self-identify, 52% as cheese obsessed. 16% of Americans say they constantly eat cheese. 61% say they consume it often or sometimes. And 3% say they've never eaten cheese. There's 3% of people that have never had the joy, the bliss, the glory of eating cheese. You give me like a 6-cheese mac and cheese, and that's as close as heaven will ever get before our time here is done. I have said more than 100 times that there are signs that God loves us. And I'm talking about men. What signs? Beer, bacon, women, and cheese. And I think that's it. That covers it. Those are the signs that God loves us as men. Beer, bacon, women, and cheese. And today is National Cheese Day. I am suspect of this survey, this story, what I saw, because the most cheese enthusiastic states in Wisconsin didn't make the top 10. Horsepucky. Now, the list of favorite cheeses: cheddar 1, can't fight that. Mozzarella 2, yes. And my favorite cheese of them all is Parmesan, and that's 3. Love Parmesan. But I encourage you to go eat cheese. If you're in the 3% that never eat cheese, I don't know if you've actually lived life. I'm just going to be honest with you. Cheese, I can't talk about it. I got to move on. I'm back. Oh, wait, I'm not here tomorrow. What's his name? I don't know. You'll have to tune in tomorrow at 11. I got someone sitting in for me. I can't even pronounce his name. Have an amazing Thursday, everybody.
Shop local, buy local, save big deals.
Hi, it's Jenny from your local Big Deal store. If you've never visited our website, you're missing out because we've partnered with some of the best local businesses in town. Dozens of gift certificates, all discounted, ready for you to buy today. Here are just a few of the businesses you'll find.